Hi. So I wanted to make a little video today about the frenemy in your pocket. I'm talking about these guys, mobile phones. It's definitely been the case, well, you may well know that although mobile phones are pretty handy, I think that's the German word for mobile phone, isn't it? Handy. Albeit a very, very convenient thing to have in your life, they are of course also backstabbing you, well, snitching on you, telling people of your whereabouts, you know, informing a shadowy set of people exactly what your whereabouts are or have been, even when you haven't done anything wrong, sort of collecting criminal evidence against you just in case you one day become a criminal. It's a bit awkward. And your frenemy in your pocket is about to get a huge upgrade in terms of its surveillance capabilities with the new 5G network. Also, though you've probably been aware for a while that your mobile phone spies on you, with the new 5G network, a weird thing's going to start happening where essentially your phone is not only going to be spying on you, but your phone will actually be helping to spy on everybody else. And we'll get into that. Let me just first tell you how I reconcile all of this in my head and remain sane. I do carry my phone around with me at all times. However, it's never, ever on. Well, the power is on, but essentially the Wi-Fi is always off. The Bluetooth is always off. The GPS certainly is always off. In fact, I've never switched the GPS on my phone. Plus I keep it on airplane mode. So if I ever want to use it, I just switch it on, use it, and switch it back off. And not only does that conserve battery life, it just means that my mobile location data is not available to anyone who wants to nab it. And I don't know, it's just a bit weird knowing that if you know, there are people who walk around with everything on at all times, and I don't know whether it's they don't care that they're being spied on, or whether they like the idea of secretly being watched because it means they're special or something. But anyway, to get into the video properly and start talking about what's coming, I'm going to have to explain to you about something called a point cloud. I'm not going to do it here. I'll do it somewhere a little bit more iconic for communications. Once this car's gone past, I'm going to fly off like Batman. Okay, ready? Oh God, look at that. I nearly poked my eye out. It's really weird how the universe works, but I mean, I've actually come here to talk about point clouds, and that's pointing at the clouds, which is really weird. Synchronicity. Yeah, have you ever heard of a point cloud? It's pretty relevant to what I'm going to be talking about today, so it's quite important that you understand what it is, so I'm going to demonstrate using these funny guys. You ever seen these before? It's the weird dinosaurs in Crystal Palace. So it's very windy today. I hope it's not screwing up the audio. So presuming that worked. You should be able to see what's called a point cloud, like a sort of vague, low definition impression of what is there in reality. And that's the sort of thing that actually the 5G network will make much better quality. And let's go over to the icon of communications to discuss it more. You can hear the wind like ripping through it. Oh look! These are the steps that used to go up to the Crystal Palace. And unsurprisingly, there's an Egyptian theme. Who could have predicted that? So I remember watching a sort of presentation, sort of like a scientific presentation ages ago, about how mobile phone masts could actually be used, theoretically, to spot stealth aircraft. The reason being is that like a stealth aircraft essentially is it's non-reflective, which means normal radar essentially would try and send a signal to it or towards it, and it would bounce off and come back, and that's how you would see it. But a stealth aircraft bounces all the signal away and absorbs it, meaning that you couldn't actually see it on radar. But the principle was that if you've got two telecommunications masts at some distance and they're communicating with each other, if something passes in between them, it essentially creates a shadow, and that shadow, of course, in the background of everything else being mildly reflective, if there's something specifically absorbing that, you can use it to image the thing that normally would be invisible. It's similar to how they detect extrasolar planets, so like planets around other solar systems. If you can detect, obviously with a telescope, a star, and if a planet moves in the way or in between you and the star, if you know how bright the star should be, you can then mathematically work out by how much the star dims when something moves in front of it, essentially the general shape and size and mass of the object that you can't really see, but by using mathematics, like algorithms and stuff, you can essentially work out exactly what is there, and actually a lot of information about what that thing is that was essentially disrupting the signal or getting between you and the signal. And that sort of got me thinking about 5G. Literally just no head, no plaque, no nothing. That's a bit weird. I'm just desperately trying to find somewhere I can film where it's not blowing a gale. In most videos that will talk about 5G, that you could term, I guess, conspiracy videos, they'll tell you that, you know, 5G is bad because of the effect on biology and the human body, and that the radiation will be absorbed by our pores and injected into the deep parts of our body, and all of that kind of stuff. Whereas what really interests me about it is its use by the surveillance services. Because the thing about 5G, or rather what they say is the pitfall, or one of the pitfalls of 5G, is that it is easily absorbed by everything, which means it doesn't pass through stuff like ordinary radio signals might. So they have to have, or they're going to have, you know, a mast every 100 meters or whatever, to make sure that everybody can get covered in electromagnetics. But that piqued my interest because, of course, if specifically anything moving between, say, your mobile phone and the nearest mobile phone mast, if that is absorbing the signal and there's disruption in the signal or a dimming in the signal that the mast receives, that can actually be used to create a point cloud and therefore image anything that is there. And if they're going to be every 100 meters everywhere we go, that means the surveillance services will have the ability to essentially construct a 3D representation of what is there in real life, essentially on a live basis, but also forensically. So say something happened, although of course we know that all the CCTV cameras generally when something happens accidentally don't work, so don't expect transparency on this, but it just means forensically they can look back at the record of all of the electromagnetic happenings, the dimming, the little blips that happen in the graphs when something moves in between two broadcasting and receiving objects. And yeah, forensically they can look back and basically reconstruct three-dimensional live, almost like video footage, even if there's no CCTV camera there, which I think is particularly interesting, and most probably is one of the most enticing things for the powers that be to make sure that the 5G network happens. And unfortunately, this is the way that it goes, is that they're not so much going to be using the masts, but it's the interaction between the mast and your phone. So your phone is going to be now not just a thing that follows you about and tells them where you're going and all that kind of stuff. It's going to be used against other people. So people's phones will essentially be spying now not on them, but also on everyone else, or helping them to create a very high definition image of everything around it. I suppose my point in this video really is that there's not really much we can do in stopping the creation of a 5G network, what will essentially be sort of the crowning glory of the creation of a all-seeing digital god. But there is something we can do, isn't there? Seeing as they're constructing something that will actually require not only the network itself, but all of the individual devices playing their part to make it function properly. I can only say that for the benefit of humanity, please put your phone on airplane mode.